Fabulous.
A burglar is taking the government to court because it put him in prison. Or more accurately, it put him in a prison cell without an ensuite toilet. He was forced to pee in a potty, which he says was, altogether now, a breach of his human rights. He also says his cell was too small. And he wants £50,000 compensation, more than he made from a string of robberies in which he nicked other people's stuff worth 15 grand. Where's their compensation? They don't get any. He works for Railtrack now, so maybe he should pay over half his wages for abusing their human rights. Let's not hold our breath. So it was uncomfortable in prison. Oh, boo-hoo, poor him. Or rather, poor us, because he is, of course, not paying his own legal bills. We are. And his solicitors have put 7 QCs on the case. Meanwhile, our MPs, having been royally caught out fiddling their expenses, while breaking no rules, of course, have suggested a pay rise. No, not for us, for them. Their argument is that because they can't be trusted not to abuse their allowances, we should give them more money up front so they'll feel less inclined to swindle us. Nothing much, you understand. A mere 40% rise should cover it. I'm not making that up. They want an extra 23 grand a year on top of their £62,000 salary, and are justifying it on the grounds that it will save us money. We should hand over the cash so they won't have to nick it. The whole world's gone crazy, but specifically in Suffolk, where the council chief executive earns £220,000 a year and sits on an organisation that spent 6 grand in a month sending staff on a chocolate-making course and workshops in drumming. They did this to improve their staff's industriousness. The phrase, get on with your work, presumably not allowed, as it would restrict their right to be awarded a wizard day off. We'd all be better off being burglars. You work for yourself, choose your own hours, and you don't have to pay any tax to fund this crazy lot. Oh, it's just every day, you pick up the paper and you think, oh, blimey, you're joking. Have people been bellyaching a lot about the MPs' extra, about what they're suggesting, a way to... So as... I mean, it really is amazing. So amazing, really, that I'm having trouble putting it into words. They're saying that because they can't be trusted, we should give them more money up front so they'll feel less inclined to fiddle their expenses. And they're standing there, having suggested that, looking stony-faced, surprised that we're finding that surprising. It's like, what? What's wrong with that, then? They just don't get it. And they say that MPs have lost touch with the real world. Hard to believe, isn't it?
So if they get this extra 23,000 quid,
yes,
are they not going to be allowed to claim any expenses?
Well, we'd like to believe that, wouldn't we? But, frankly, I don't. No. I think it's it's either that, or they're saying, you'll have to buy our houses. You have to buy us a nice flat. Not any old flat, mind. They'll want to, see it beforehand, make sure that there's, that they can, put some, put in a new kitchen, probably on us. Flog it later on for a much higher price. MPs faced furious criticism last night after suggesting they should be given a £23,000 pay rise to prevent misuse of their expenses. And, when all this started, I thought that's what they'll say. I knew that they'd say this before they said it. I can tell you what the MPs are going to say months before they actually come out with it themselves. It's almost as though they planned this. We'll release some figures, like, every now and again, and will cause consternation in the Daily Mail, and then eventually they'll just give us the money so we don't have to nick it. Staggering, really, isn't it? It's like, not even in Zimbabwe would they get away with stuff like this. A committee headed by the Speaker, Michael Martin...
Oh, no!
Him... floated the idea that the amount, the most that MPs can claim on their second homes allowance should be added to their 62 grand salary. That's the most they can claim, so that's what they claim. It's just amazing, isn't it? It would mean an inflation-shattering rise of 40%. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's 2 point what that they've offered the teachers?
2.1?
2 point something or other, yeah.
2 point not a lot.
Right, so for the teachers, 2 point not a lot. For the MPs, 40%. Makes perfect sense to me. Hands up anyone with an issue of complaint. Oh, blimey, that's everyone. Mark Wallace, the campaign director for the Taxpayers Alliance, who's a very busy man lately, said, "This would be outrageous. It would be tantamount to giving MPs a reward for being caught out abusing their expenses." No, not tantamount to. That is exactly what it is. Like I said, it's almost like they planned it. It couldn't have gone better if they'd got together in a group and written it down. Other proposals include giving MPs a daily allowance of between £125 and £150, so in other words, £150, for turning up at the Commons and covering their food and accommodation costs. Think about that for a second. You get your wage, right, whatever it is, and then on top of that, they pay you to come into work.
What?
Are you with me?
I think we should try that here.
It's much the same as when you buy tickets on the net, or even if you show up. They'll say, right, that'll be £30, please. And you hand over £30, and they say, oh, that's not going to cover it. And it's actually £36. When we say £30, we mean £36. Well, why is that, you say? Oh, it's booking fee.
And they call it a convenience charge,
Yeah,
which is
right.
just ludicrous.
Very convenient
Rub
for
it
them.
in, yeah.
So they're charging you to sell you what they're selling. As though you went to the grocers, the grocer. Do they still have grocers? All right, you went to the supermarket and you bought 4 oranges, and they said, that'll be £1.80, please. Plus £2 for us to sell it to you. That's just insane. I mean, there's no other thing like the ticketing scam in the world, is there? Is there any other thing like that they charge you extra to sell it to you? Can anybody think of anything like that? I mean, there can't be. No one would put up with it. But we shrug our shoulders and go, oh well, that's just what it costs. That we put up with this stuff. I mean, do other countries put up with this stuff? Or is it just us? I mean, I know America is where we got the ticket off over the post and, over the net. But do they actually pay a booking fee as well? You wouldn't think they'd put up with this, do they?
Yeah. I mean, I think before there was a monopoly, wasn't there? Because there was one big company starting with T.
Ticketron, wasn't it?
That's the one.
Yeah.
And, they had the monopoly on pretty much everything. Now, there's
Yeah.
a load of different... I mean, when I get gig tickets now, there's about 4 different sites I check.
Yes, that's right. All charging the same amount.
Yeah,
Isn't that curious?
And the one I started to use, that before, when I didn't want to use the big monopoly one, they didn't have a fee at first, and I thought, brilliant, it can be done, and now they've got popular, now they have a fee too.
Yes, that's right. And the Monopolies and Mergers Commission, or whoever it is, who investigate companies who are suspiciously selling this similar goods for the same price. Every now and again, they looked into CDs, you remember. Oh, how come CDs are $12.99 in Virgin, and $12.99 in HMV, and $12.99 in Tower? The Tower exist. Last time I went through Piccadilly Circus, they weren't there anymore. It was some company I'd never heard of.
No, they went bust.
Did
Tower
they?
Records, I believe, yeah.
Well, I never liked them anyway. And they'll come back and say, oh, no, nothing to see here, move along. Well, of course it's, if it's not just colluding, then if they don't actually sit down and say, well, you sell it at $12.99 and so will we, all you need to do is send a chap round their shop and see how much they're selling it for, and you sell it for the same. And what's the difference? It's totally alike. Same with the ticket people. Well, if you're selling the exact same thing at £1.50 extra, well, so will we. Nudge and a wink. I mean, I don't know that that's what they do, but it's rather suspicious that they all do the same. I mean, if I ran a ticket agency, I'd charge half the price of everyone else. But there isn't one that does it, right? Even if you go and pick the tickets up yourself, even if they don't post them to you, they still charge you. It's like I said, the whole world's gone crazy. I don't understand anything anymore. I think that's just a feature of getting older.
I've noticed now, even if you go directly to the box office,
Yeah.
and it's just, you're not going through another company.
Right.
It's just straight from the actual venue.
Yes.
They still charge you a pickup fee.
A pickup fee, yeah. Even if you just pick it up yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing. It's just, yeah. It's like you book an airplane flight, and then they charge you extra when you get on the plane to sit down. Nothing makes any sense anymore. Am I right? Yes, Nick, you are right. Thanks for mentioning
You're
that.
always right, so it goes without saying.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Forgot about that, yeah. 0845 6060 973. If you want to talk about that, if you want to talk about Porsche, Take Porsche. Oh, people get hyperventilatingly cross when you mispronounce Porsche. As though that actually makes any difference, like it matters. Nobody insists that you say Mercedes the way Germans do, but you mispronounce Porsche and people start pulling their hair out. In fact, a woman I used to work with on an old station many years ago, we did some silly thing where we gave somebody a Porsche for the day. But the hook was, we'll give you a Porsche for the day. For the day. You pick it up at 8, give it back at 6. We'll give you a Porsche for the day. Like that. And I, in my ignorance, used to say Porsche. And she used to come in screaming, it's not Porsche, it's Porsche. What's the capital of France? Yes?
Paris?
No, it's Paris. You insist on one, you've got to insist on the lot. You see what I mean? Anyway, they're taking they're taking Ken to court about the congestion charge, because it's basically going to put them out of business, as it will some other company that's joined the suit. The council bonding days, I've got the noisy weightlifter. He was quite funny. Natasha Kaplinsky getting pregnant at work, and being paid to not go to work. Oh, wouldn't it be fantastic to be paid not to go to work? I'd love not to go to work and be paid. All I need is to get pregnant. Well, that bloke in the paper's got pregnant. If he can do it, I can do it too. 7:45. LBC Travel with Alan Joyce.
Yeah?
We have a How Low auction going on at the minute. It closes 7 p.m. tomorrow. It's your last chance to win a 42-inch Samsung Plasma TV. It looks fantastic even when it's switched off. In fact, even when it's still in the box. It's got HD ready in it. It's got built-in Freeview, giving you all the extra free channels. You won't need a set-top box. It is a reverse auction. The person with the lowest unique bid wins. You know how this works. Text LBC plus your bid in pence to 88821 if you want to take part. If it was a bid of 87p, it would be LBC 872 88821. Bids cost £1.50 plus your standard network rate. Lines closed 7 p.m. tomorrow. Bidders must be over 16. See lbc.co.uk for full terms and conditions. Good luck. There was a bloke recently who suggested that he had discovered the secret of success. Do you want to get to the top in life? Here is how, according to him. Take no interest in anyone else. See if this sounds like your boss at home. Take no interest in anyone else, talk loudly, claim credit for everyone's ideas, and always push to the front in queues. His idea of how to be successful. Oh, and never smile, unless it's at someone else's misfortune. That's the advice of New York writer Martin Keane, who believes that only the truly repellent succeed. His 10-point plan is being turned into a film by Warner Brothers, so he has succeeded. He says he used to be the nicest guy in the world. He was passed over for promotions and bossed around in his relationships. Even his dog walked all over him. Something clicked, he said. If nice guys finished last, I was going to stop being a nice guy. He went to acting teachers and boxing teachers to learn how to be more mean. The result? No one liked him, but he soon got promoted. I became an alpha male who fights to win and doesn't know the word sorry. The worst thing? It worked. Secrets to success? Got any? It's a bit dispiriting if that is actually how you do it.
That is why I'm still at the bottom.
Yeah, me too. Too nice for my own good.
We're all such lovely, unsuccessful people.
That's right. Simply everybody says so, yeah. 0845 6060 973 if you have succeeded in that way or in another way. Take no interest in anyone else. Talk loudly. Claim credit for everyone's ideas. And always push to the front of the queue and never smile unless it's at someone else's misfortune. That is the secret to success. I don't think I could keep it up. Apart from the smiling part.
Yeah, you've got that down.
Yeah. Smiling, it's just, it takes far too many... Well, you're going against gravity for a start, aren't you?
Well, you always said, have a smile and you immediately feel better.
Yeah, you do, yeah. So in theory, yeah, that's what I heard.
You should be smiling all the time.
Oh, all the time, yeah. This is why I'm going to the doctor all the time, you see. Perpetually frowning. 0845 6060 973. OK. Cannabis. Should it be legalised? I'm not going to do it. I'll do something else instead. How about... This is bizarre. I don't want any calls about cannabis, but by the way, at all. I've done that to death. It can only go one way. Oh, yes, it should. Oh, no, it shouldn't. I'm not doing it.
Works for pantomimes.
A company boss is paying a private security firm £5,000 to move travellers from his factory after police refused to help. See this? I'll file this under the whole world's gone crazy. Police claim that they're being hampered by laws protecting the gypsies' human rights. Imagine this. 40 people with 10 caravans, 3 horses and dogs are now camped on his car park of a warehouse owned by this bloke, Charles Sterling. He planned to transfer 15 staff to the factory near Droitwich in Worcestershire from Worcester this week. Then the travellers moved in after breaking a lock on gates leading to the factory on the Hampton Lovett industrial estate at the weekend. It's an industrial estate where he does business. It was locked up, so they broke the lock and they thought, oh, we're having that. So they just waltzed in and took it. And the police can't do a thing about it. What the hell's going on here? Mr. Sterling, head of Sterling Power Products, which designs marine and automotive electric equipment, asked the police to intervene, but they declined. He's had to pay £1,000 to a private security firm to serve the travellers with an eviction order, and will then have to spend another £4,000 if, as he suspects, they ignore it. Mr. Sterling, a former Northern Ireland policeman, said yesterday, "This situation is ridiculous and an absolute disgrace. I spoke to the local chief superintendent. He said he sympathised with me, but although he had the power to act, they weren't going to." He actually said that. So we're not going to do that. We can, but we won't. When I asked him why, he said they had to bear in mind the gypsies' human rights. I'm going to pause there for you to just work your mind around that. This is his property, his factory, his car park. This is how he makes his living, how he buys food to put on the table at home for his... I don't know whether he's married and he's got kids. Let's just assume that he has. Let's assume they're hungry, too. And so, these people, these gypsies, broke the lock on the gate and took his car park for their homes. And the police said, oh, well, can't do anything about that. What about their rights? Am I missing something here? Am I being unkind, uncaring? No one's leaping to their defence, that's for sure.
I'm just hoping there's something to this story that we don't know.
Right.
But I have a horrible feeling
a happy ending?
Isn't.
A happy ending. Well, I haven't got to the end yet. Maybe there is. Let's find out.
Let's keep going then.
Yeah. They've vandalised my gates to get in on my land, and now they will not leave, he said.
Not happy yet.
No, not so far, no. The makeshift camp has meant running the business has been impossible. We cannot use the factory. They're putting this guy out of business. Officials from Uniquin, a security firm, have served the travellers with an eviction notice, giving them until today to move. If they fail to comply, the families will be forcibly ejected. Let's get on with the forcible ejection. The travellers remained on the site yesterday. One said, "Oh, we won't be here long, but we're not moving just yet."
The best eviction I saw of traveller was a single traveller in a caravan on a farmer's field, and he kept coming back every year, I think, and the farmer finally got fed up, and he got one of his JCBs that had like a forklift attachment on it, and he literally lifted the caravan up with the bloke still in it and threw it over the hedge into the next field. And the police said, "Oh no, it's a land dispute, we can't get involved." So
really?
the farmer got off. Yeah,
that's amazing that the farmer actually got away with that, because if you would think that the police would be straight round there and they'd clap him in irons. Inspector Stevens said, "Police do have the power to remove travellers, but the Home Office has directed forces to take into account the needs of travellers before using it." So in other words, it's not the police, it's the Home Office who've said you can't evict people who've nicked your land, your property. So you can steal something off someone, but the police can't do anything about it because the government doesn't want them to. Somebody please explain that to me. That is insane. He added, "Police will intervene if the travellers start causing a disruption to the community." Well, if if somebody with a caravan, 2 horses and a dog moved onto your garden, would you class that as a disruption to the community? I think so, yeah. In Warwickshire, 16 families are camped without planning permission on land they own near the home of Olympics Minister Tessa Jowell's husband David Mills. So there is small justice somewhere. That's your happy ending right there. This is LBC. Details about this event, lbc.co.uk.
Absolutely.
I noticed that the Sopranos is coming to an end on Channel 4, so people who haven't got satellite and don't have E4 on the Freeview are catching this for the first time, I think. The end of the Sopranos. And I think the second from last one is on tonight. Right at the end, Tony is discovered to be a woman all along. Who knew?
Oh.
Spoilt it for you.
You know, on your recommendation alone, I've got the season 1 box set. I'm
Really?
about to start it.
Ah, well, you're in for a treat.
So if it's not good, it's your fault.
It's well, people say The Wire. I've read several times that people say The Wire is the best thing that has ever been on television. I've never seen that. I've got no idea what that is, but it's hard to believe that it could actually be better than The Sopranos. I think it's, and I watched it all the way through when it first came out, and then Channel E More or E or one of those extra Channel 4 things showed all of it one a night, making it a marathon. I watched nothing else for the first 3 months of the year. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. I'm going to watch the last 2 again, because I've had a bit of a withdrawal when it ended. I thought, I'll never see that again. So I will catch the last 2 again, just to see the, well, I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to tell you anything about it. Unlike probably the person on the TV who will say, and coming up in tonight's show, there's a special guest appearance from Roseanne. As a surprise, which I've just spoiled. Roseanne doesn't appear on The Sopranos. 0845 6060 973. Here is Eltham. Phil.
Hi, Nick.
Phil.
Yeah, a couple of things, if I may. The ticketing and human rights. First of all, the ticketing, you're wondering why you have a booking fee. Now, what I've heard before is, I'm not an expert on this, but it's just that venues simply outsource the administration of the tickets, because it's quite a sort of complex affair.
Rubbish.
So you have a booking fee which goes to a sort of outsourced third party, because to set up and administer your own sort of database would be quite a lot to do in-house. And also, say, a little theatre in the West End, they don't want to sort of tie their resources up administering this sort of stuff. You know, they want to focus on the actual creativity side of things.
Oh, Phil, I've never heard such a load of old rubbish in all my life. Did you just think this up?
Honestly, I heard it from someone else on LBC.
Right.
About a month ago.
Yeah.
That's what I've heard.
Right. Talking out of their hat, were they? Theatres used to sell their own tickets, and they didn't used to charge you to buy them.
Sorry, Nick, who did?
Theatres.
Theatres, yeah.
Or, as Brucey would say, theatres.
Yes. Oh, okay. Human
Right,
rights.
so I'm not buying that. Go on.
Okay.
Next.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to me that all this Human Rights Act is just completely abused, to be honest. Because it's day after day after day, you hear these absolutely ridiculous stories. You know, like the prisoner trying to sue,
Prisoners seem to be forever suing us because their porridge was too hot, or their porridge was too cold, or it was just right and they weren't expecting it.
Yeah, I mean, if it was up to me,
hang 'em all. Oh, Phil, calm down, mate.
Oh, yeah, okay, fair enough. But I'd definitely chop that. I wouldn't get rid of it altogether.
Yeah.
But I'd definitely chop it into something sensible.
Right. It occurs to me that the Human Rights Act, it was dreamt up by lawyers for the benefit of lawyers.
Yeah.
Because those are the ones that seem to be getting most of the positives here. You know,
Yeah.
when somebody starts flapping their gums about the Human Rights Act, they initially reach for their lawyers, which, in most cases, they don't pay for. We do.
Yeah. Through the old tax as usual.
Yeah.
But the thing, so it's stated obvious, and the other thing, for example, these gypsies moved in near Tessa. Was it Tessa Jow?
Tessa Jow's estranged husband. Yeah.
Yeah, and I read in the Daily Mail. You wouldn't guess, would you? But basically,
Were they outraged about something? I bet they were.
They were outraged, indeed. But the thing is, basically, he sold up already and got quite a good deal on the house, about 950 grand.
Really? So Tessa Jow doesn't have any connection to that property anymore?
So yeah, job done.
Well, not really, because what about the poor sap who just spent all that money on that place? They thought, wow, we're going to get a place in the country. It's green fields for as far as the eye can see.
Oh, but I believe, Nick, it was that the purchase was done literally agreed post the gypsies moving in.
Really?
Quite bizarrely. I
That
think
is
they
weird.
got a really good deal or something. But
yeah, you'd think that any buyer with I was going to say half a brain, but perhaps that's not true. But with with the sort of concerns that most people would have, would run a mile.
Mm.
And that's the problem here. It's the hoops that you have to jump through to get planning permission in this country are staggering. If anybody's ever tried it, I mean, you could knit your own car quicker. Mm. And the amount of times they say no is amazing. Partly because of government targets. The government recently said, all planning officers have to deal with a planning application within, I can't remember what it is, so I'll make it up, 4 weeks. Now, they can't do that because there aren't enough of them, and they work incredibly slowly, and they have a history of, just crawling through the work. And so, if the planning application has been lodged with them for 3 weeks and 6 days, they'll say, all right, well, we'll just say no. And we'll not even look at it. We'll just say no, rejected, and then they've met the government target. Perfect. So that's what you and I and everybody else, what are called honest tax-paying citizens, what we have to go through. But if you're a gypsy, you can just pick your plot of land and live on it immediately. In a green belt land, no planning permission required, and nobody will lift a finger to do anything about it. If you'd built your house, if, say, the landowner had built a house on that plot, the council would have been around with bulldozers before you could have nailed his letterbox to the door.
Yeah. And the thing is, as well, I don't mean to go start to sound funny or whatever, but you can imagine there's some sort of gypsy group movement who will say, "Oh, you're just saying this because they're gypsies."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When in fact it's got nothing to do with it. It's just the common law, or to respect the laws in this land.
Yeah, it's kind of like playing. It's kind of like playing the race card every time that you do something wrong. Oh, is it 'cause I is black or red or green or white or whatever it might be? It's got nothing to do with it. It's just what you're doing that we have a problem with, not who you are.
Yeah, I just can't wait to vote for
the candidates. That's right.
Equally, yeah.
They all have equal merit. Yes, it's going to be tough to decide who to vote for. You're absolutely right.
Be,
yeah.
All right, mate.
All right. Cheers, Phil.
Cheers.
Ta-ta. 0845 6060 973. I'm quite looking forward to voting. It's going to be tough to. I'm going to be in that booth for. I'll take sandwiches. It's going to be very complicated and difficult and long and drawn out. I don't know even where to start.
Is there a comedy option apart from Boris, obviously?
Well, there's got to be lots of them, surely. Do we have an actual full list of the? What did you just say?
Nothing.
Do we have a full list
on the website? Yes.
Okay, can we get that up? I want the full list of who is, and we'll read them all out, and we'll be equally praiseworthy about each and every one of them, because I'm sure they each have their merits. Okay, we'll pause while you do that.
La da da.
Yes. Take all the time you need. It's a live show. Anybody know any tunes?
I can read you the list if you want. I've got a copy here.
You've got it? Well, why don't you just pop in with it?
Do you want me to bring it through?
Oh, no, I'll read your mind.
There's no need for sarcasm.
Oh, yes, there is. 10 candidates for London Mayor. I had no idea. Livingston will run for Labour, Boris Johnson for the Conservatives, Brian Paddock for the Lib Dems. We've got the Greens, UKIP, BNP, Christian Choice, who I'd not previously heard of, Left List, I haven't heard of them either, English Democrats, nor them, and one independent. Who, he or she? Oh, just Winston Mackenzie, independent. So, right, Alan Craig, Boris Johnson, Brian Paddock, Gerard Batten, Ken Livingstone, Lindsay German, Matt O'Connor, Richard Barnbrook, Cheyenne, I never know how to say that. Sean, S-I-A-N, Sean Berry, and Winston Mackenzie. Right. Is there an option that says none of the above? I'm going to pick that one. Here is... Now, shall we go... Shall I take this, or shall we go to the traffic? It's tantalisingly close to take a call. Your call?
Let's take the call.
Take the call, you say? Wembley. Hello, Martin.
Hi.
Martin.
Yeah. Right, I'll explain this fun and games. You know the Violent Crimes Reduction Act?
No.
Oh, well, since about a couple of months back, there's it's actually known as a bill, but it's actually an act. It controls the use of weapons, things like air guns, martial arts weapons and that.
Oh, yeah, nunchucks.
Yeah, those. Well, in order to buy those, because I sometimes work as a TV extra doing that sort of stuff...
Oh, yeah.
I had to join the company's own, what you call Reenactors Association in order to buy the weapons.
Which company?
The company I brought them off.
You had to join their...
Reenactors Association.
What, is this where people pretend it's the Middle Ages and walk around in hose?
Yeah.
Really? I went to one of those once. This was in America.
Yeah, but they're now over here. This is the only way to get around this stupid law.
Right.
Yeah.
So you have to pretend that you're in, that you are Grasshopper.
Yeah, or something like that, yeah.
I kind of miss that show, don't you?
I know, this government just, screw everything up, and, they were going to nearly screw up what you could own as porn in your household by passing a loony bill until they suddenly realised it would upset so many people, it would make it impossible for them to even own just the most harmless of things.
I find it surprising that they would back off upsetting a lot of people. It seems to be their speciality.
Yeah,
but,
I know it is.
Anyway, you seem to have strayed into another area there, Martin. But I've got to go. Thanks very much.
Thanks.
0845 6060 973. It's now 8:15. LBC Travel with...
Alan Joyce.
Thanks,
Nick.
Well, the whole world's gone crazy.
Yes, it has. Isn't that right, John?
Oh, Nick, how you going, mate?
All right, thanks.
Yeah, look, Nick, I think I've sussed out, mate, why no one wants to do anything about these gypsies on their camp.
Go on.
Right, this is only my theory. I think none of them want to get in a confrontational chat with David Essex, the Gypsy King.
David Essex?
Yeah, didn't you know that? He's the Gypsy King, isn't he?
Is he?
Yeah.
In what sense?
Oh, he looks after all their rights. He's like right in with all the lawyers for their side. You ask David Essex anything about a gypsy, he'll be able to tell you.
What, Dave, the twinkly-eyed crooner from the 70s?
That's the man. Yep, he's known as the Gypsy King.
I did not know that. I saw a picture of him as I was walking along the street the other day, minding my own affairs. And he's on tour again. And there he was, still twinkling.
Oh, yeah. There must be some sort of contact lens that he's had put in by now to do it.
It looked very... When you see... because you remember at the time he used to be on Top of the Pops all the time with Rock On and all that good stuff. And there was something... He must have put something in his eyes, because it looked like 2 pools of water, not eyeballs. There must have been something in there. That was his unique selling point, yeah.
Well, that's what it is, Nick. They don't want to get in a confrontational chat with him.
With David Essex, right. That must be it, yeah.
The second point is, Nick, about these not human rights we're talking about, on just a slightly more serious note. But as you say, genuine tax-paying people out there seem to be the ones who always come, on the sort of dodgy end of these, with the perpetrators being looked after all the time. But I've got an idea. Why don't this government just say for 12 months, let's not do any human rights as an experimental time?
Let's see what happens.
Just see what happens. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? You know, these thieves and burglars and God knows what else, they get a bit rough for 12 months. Oh dear, how terrible, but never mind.
Right.
You know, just see how it works out.
Okay, well, I'll put it down on a piece of paper and I'll slip it under the gates at number 10. See what happens. Thanks very much, John.
Cheers. Thanks, my boy.
Let's not hold our breath, 0845 6060 973. As an example of the whole world's gone crazy, how about this? In fact, beat this. In fact, yeah, why don't you try and beat this? Give me examples of the whole world's gone crazy. A border security force being unveiled by ministers today cannot search for illegal immigrants at the weekend because it hasn't got enough money. The UK Border Agency will start life without customs and immigration staff being trained to share each other's powers and with only limited rights of arrest. The 25,000-strong force does not even have its own promised uniform, as officials wrangle over the design. They're wrangling over the design. Oh, I think Brown is just not you at all. The revelations are an embarrassment for the government. Oh, come off it. An embarrassment for the government? I think they're beyond blushing by now. I don't think anything embarrasses them anymore. Gordon Brown has promised that the agency, which combines existing customs, immigration and UK visa staff, will be a single uniformed presence with shared powers. Ministers want the force to deport more than 4,000 foreign criminals this year, but critics say the agency, which was already under fire for not including the police amongst its ranks, was descending into farce. The ban on immigration staff searching for illegal immigrants at the weekend and bank holidays is the result of a £100 million overspend that left officials desperate to avoid overtime payments. Raids will be halted, except where staff formally request written permission at least 3 weeks in advance from bosses who have made it clear it's unlikely to be granted. Weekend staffing levels are also being cut, so illegal immigrants arrested by the police outside of official hours are likely to be released. I mean, honestly, if I'd sat down with a blank sheet and a pen and you'd given me 5 hours, I could not have come up with that. We've got a border security force now that can't search for people or indeed hang on to crims at the weekend because they don't want to pay the overtime. So our borders are secure Monday to Friday, office hours only. After that, anything goes. Best of luck. I mean, really, is it just me, or does none of this actually make sense? Because they need to avoid overtime payments. Border and Immigration Minister Leanne Byrne said, oh no, it's not. You know, the usual blah, blah, blah. Well, of course, statistics prove that, and on and on and on. I know somebody who works in the NHS, and the government has recently given them a target. That it's something like you must see somebody within 18 weeks for surgery. They must be they must have a surgical procedure within 18 weeks, or maybe it's 8 weeks. I don't know. Some period must not go by without them having surgery that they've been recommended for. What that means is that they're asking all the anaesthetists and the surgeons and so on to come in at the weekends. They're being paid. Well, this is not the surgeons, this is just the anaesthetists, being paid £1,500 a day to come in on Saturdays to clean up the backlog before the end of year, the financial end of year, so that they can put a little tick in the box to say that they've met the target. Now, of course, you can't carry on giving people £1,500 a day just to come in on their Saturdays to clear a backlog because they haven't got the money. So they're spending money that they don't have to clear a backlog to meet a government target by the end of the financial year. This is a rate that they can't keep up after they've ticked the little box, so they'll go back to, or in fact, not just go back to how they were, it will be much worse, because they will have spent... Are you with me? They'll have spent all their money. So in order just to get a little tick from the government, or rather, so that the government can say, look what a tremendous success we're making of the NHS, they're spending money they don't have, paying people £1,500 for 1 day overtime at the weekend to come and clear a backlog so the government can tick the little box and they can make a statement in the House telling us what a fantastic job they're doing. It's all smoke and mirrors. None of it's true anymore. government targets, is there a single government target that actually has achieved what was stated on the tin? I mean, the classic one, I've said it before, but it's worth repeating, because, and I'm not making this up, this is true, it's been, it's been seen time and again, is if you go to accident and emergency, you can put your fingers in your ears and start humming loudly for the next 30 seconds if you've heard me say this before. But every time I say it, I'm astonished. You go to accident and emergency, and the government said, right, we will introduce a target that you must be seen within, I can't remember what it is, say 4 hours. After which time you've been sitting on that plastic chair for such a long period, your bottom has fused to it, or at least it feels that way. 4 hours after entering accident and emergency, you must be seen, they say. And so, after 3 hours and 59 minutes, if they haven't seen you yet, and you're on, like, a trolley or a chair with wheels, that would be a wheelchair. They take you out of accident emergency and put you in the corridor. So you're not in accident and emergency anymore, so you don't exist as a patient. And they can tick the little box that, that you've... Well, it's not that you've been seen, it's just you're not there anymore. Incredible. And that is repeated over and over again every time the government sets a target, because... And we would do this too. If the government set us a target, our first thought would be, how can we get around this? What's the easiest way to make them think that we're doing... Not how do we do a good job, but what's the easiest way to make it look as though we're doing a good job? Because that's easier than actually doing it, right? Which is the inverse of sitting in an office and not having anything to do, but looking as though you're doing something. I always find that that's actually harder work than actually doing something. But it's the other way around if you're trying to meet a target, because targets are, almost by definition, difficult to reach. Otherwise, they wouldn't need to set you a target. If you were just going to do it anyway, why set you a target? So it means that you're going to have to work harder. And nobody wants to work harder. So we'll work hard, perversely, on not working hard. We'll put more effort in to not doing what they want, just so it looks as though we've done it. And because all of these, the NHS and all of these other departments aren't run by the people who are actually doing the work, they're run by what they call wonks. Look up the word wonk well, maybe not. Don't Google wonk. Who knows what might come up? Other search engines are available. But they're run by financial people, they're run by accountants. And they're not remotely interested in patients or members of the general public. They're just interested in, well, essentially, achieving their bonus, which is what they will get if they meet this arbitrary target. And so they will meet it come hell or high water, because their end of month salary check will go up or down depending on whether they've met this figure that the government's just plucked out of the air. And the phrase you just keep coming back to is just that the whole world's gone crazy. Or is it just me? This is LBC 97.3.
Okie dokie.
Here's somewhere in a place that's delightfully called Chadwell St Mary. Hello, Marion.
Hello, Nick. How are you?
I'm good, thanks.
Good.
Chadwell St Mary.
Chadwell St Mary.
It sounds like a field with a church in the middle of it.
Yeah, roughly speaking, it's very much like that. We have a lot of fields around our bungalow.
Little Tweety birds singing in the distance.
No, what we do actually get is a lot of mice coming in the garden.
Oh, right. Well, you've just blown that for me.
It's very nice, actually, but often one of our cats will bring a mouse in, and they leave it alive.
Yeah.
It's
giving you a fresh present.
That's probably right, actually.
Yeah.
It's them frogs they bring in.
Oh, nice.
Very nice. What actually I was ringing up for was just to say, you were saying about accident and emergency. Now, up until Easter Sunday, I probably would have agreed with you. But my husband was taken in as an emergency. It was a suspected heart attack.
Yeah.
And with 30 minutes of arriving at Basildon Hospital, the doctor saw him.
Within 30 minutes?
Within 30 minutes.
I went in with a suspected heart attack and they saw me instantly.
Really?
Yeah, I went and I went in and I sat on the ledge. You know, you go up and it looks like a bank teller. They're behind glass. I sat on the ledge because I genuinely did think I was having a heart attack. And I said, and they said, yes, can we help you? I said, I think I'm having a heart attack. And they opened this door that I couldn't even see existed. It's like the wall just disappeared magically, and they ushered me in, and I was on a bed with hooked up to one of those machines that go beep within about 10 seconds.
Well, the only difference maybe was my husband was taken in by ambulance, and they put him on an ECG monitor in our lounge, and then transported him onto the ambulance, straight into accident and emergency.
Yeah.
And then from there on, a doctor came, they did blood tests. The nurse came first, did blood tests, linked him up to the heart monitor, and then the doctor came and did various other tests. But they were absolutely fantastic. And I think it was probably an hour and 45 minutes, he was actually in a ward. But the good bit was it wasn't a heart attack after all that. But
yeah, that's what they said to me.
Yeah. What did they say was wrong with you, if I can ask this question?
Yeah, I had, my heart was, had missed beats. It was atrial fibrillation, or one of those things.
Yes, yes.
Something like 19,000 missed beats in a 24-hour period. Beat that! Yeah, I think that's a world record.
I can, actually, no. And they did your cholesterol and everything like that.
Yeah, all of that, yeah.
Yeah, see... My husband.
But I don't think going in with a heart attack is indicative of how most people get treated at A&E. Because I was ushered in through a waiting room full of people who looked like they'd been there since they signed the Magna Carta. Yeah.
I know I had to. Well, they went in. There were sort of two parts of accident and emergency. One where it's like the bedded unit, and then the other part is where they bring sort of.
People with saucepans stuck on their head.
Yeah, and you've got the drunks and you've got blood dripping and all that sort of thing. So it's like two different sections, you know. So how long they wait in that part, I really couldn't tell
There's the shouty drunk section and the moaning ill section. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm glad that it worked out all right.
Yes, so am I. Very much so, actually. But I just wanted to say.
Were you having a row at the time?
No. It was a perfectly peaceful Sunday morning up until then.
Right, okay. All right, thanks
a lot,
thanks,
anyway.
Marion. Cheers.
Thanks, bye.
Yeah, that's a tip, by the way. If ever you go into A&E, just tell them you're having a heart attack. And then when you get in there and you're hooked up to the machine that goes beep, then just say, oh, actually, I just had I grazed my finger. Or I needed to get to the area and my car broke down, so I called an ambulance to use it as a cab. Like that daft woman that, I can't remember how many times she called, but it's like every weekend she rolled out the pub, couldn't afford a cab, so she called an ambulance to take her home. She should have been thrashed to within an inch of her life. Am I right? Yes, Nick, you are right.
As always.
I was gonna... there's a lot of things... how about wolf whistles? There's been a lot in the papers just lately about sexism and the banning thereof. Until now, it's been a favourite way of offering a compliment to a passing lady. But the building industry's wolf whistling days may be numbered. One leading construction firm has banned its brickies from whistling, saying the outdated tradition has become a distraction for young house hunters. A tradition? That's stretching it a bit, isn't it? Tradition? George Wimpey says that the savvy and sophisticated women are put off visiting sites in search of a property for fear of being targeted. The edict come just days after bosses such as pub landlords and shopkeepers were deemed liable for any sexual banter directed at their employees. Well, that is nuts. How can you, as a person who owns a pub, be held responsible if some bloke, when ordering his pint, says, oh, thanks, darling, or whatever it might be? That's not the pub landlord's fault. He's probably upstairs drunk watching TV anyway. If my experience of the publican trade's got anything to go by. George Wimpey, bosses obviously feel they need to protect their customers too. Sales and Marketing Director Richard Goad emailed staff in the Bristol office telling them builders wouldn't be able to wolf whistle on any of the city's 6 sites from 9 a.m. today. 8:55? Perfectly acceptable. So builders start at about 8, don't they? So they've had an hour transition phase.
It should be all whistled out by then.
Yeah,
anyway.
That's right, yeah. The move comes ahead of the company's launch of a major housing project in the city centre, in Bristol. Mr. Goad said, in the 21st century, the wolf whistle is out of place. Our buyers know what they want, and the general feeling is that women won't stand for being whistled at by builders. Well, he's quite right. I mean, he's not talking about just people up on scaffolding outside of a place that's being, done up. This is a development with a sales office. Well, you'd have to be out your mind to work for a giant company like Wimpy, and you've got a sales office underneath you, and the people are coming and going, and you're wolf whistling the customers. You'd have to be crazy. No one would do that, surely. I mean, it's not like you couldn't be tracked down. It was that one. Similarly, men report finding it insulting when their loved ones are whistled at, and it causes unnecessary tension on what should be an enjoyable search for a new home.
What?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Nothing more enjoyable than searching for a new home. That's got to be one of the most painful experiences known to man, whether you're renting or buying. But buying is worse. Enjoyable search for... Has anybody actually enjoyed the experience of searching for a new home? Like any of it? That's a big no all round. A spokesman for the firm said that no punishment had been devised for breaching the ban because it expects all its customers to stick to it. Well, it could, glue their lips together, for instance. This was not the first time that builders have been banned from expressing themselves through whistling. In 1994, the women-only Lucy Cavendish College and Cambridge University made builders sign a good conduct clause when they won a £2 million contract to build 2 residential halls and a new dining hall. I remember that. Notices went up around the college ordering the 50 builders to behave like gentlemen to the 150 female students and staff. They were also warned against wolf whistling and swearing. What, the girls? Oh, the builders. That's right. Cut it out, lads. It's very 1970s. It does seem to be from an earlier period, doesn't it? From when the Sweeney stalked the roads. And they used to leer at passing schoolgirls. The Sweeney used to. I vividly remember that. So, Reagan looked at Carter. Was that the other guy's name? As a posse of schoolgirls went by and said, "Poor white socks." It was on television. How times change, eh? You wouldn't get away with that sort of stuff now. Quite right, too. But it does seem to be of an earlier era, am I right? When people were more boorish. Oh, in fact, I'll take that back. People are just as boorish as they ever were, but just not in that respect. Or perhaps I just don't frequent those kind of sites. Or I just don't get whistled at. I don't get whistled at as much as I used to.
Aww.
I know.
I can't do it myself. So.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. You know how to whistle, don't you? You put your lips together and blow. Close. Needs work. 0845 6060 973. Well, I don't like any of that. Right, what else? The noisy weightlifter. How about that? The neighbour from hell.
Does this beat the neighbour we talked about yesterday with the stereo?
Maybe. No.
Let's compare.
Well, the one with the stereo yesterday, that's just being willfully unpleasant and stupid. This woman, whose neighbours complained that she was playing her music too loud, used to play Madonna all night long. All night long. Over and over and over. The police came round and asked her to stop, and the council asked her to stop, and they had to, I think they took her to court, and they eventually got an ASBO. I mean, imagine continuing to do that, knowing that everyone around you is life's being made a misery. I cannot understand that mentality. I just don't get it. I mean, I am the world's most considerate neighbour. Because I know I don't like hearing anything from anybody else, and so I don't impinge my little life on them either.
We just had, in my development, we just had a newsletter sent round, and it said noisy neighbours, noise and development, and then it gave some instances, or some examples of what was deemed excessive noise, or irritable noise.
Right.
And on the list one of them was bellowing down the telephone.
Yeah, well, quite right too. I don't even like that on trains or in buses or in the street. Why do people talk louder when they're on the phone?
I know, you're amplified, you don't need to shout.
Exactly.
Why do people not understand that?
I mean, if people were holding their phone away from their face, on the other end, and they had to shout louder to breach the distance, then I could understand it. But they're not. They've got it in their ear.
And another one was heated arguments.
Yeah.
But we've got
sex, loud sex.
Yeah, that one wasn't. That
pull
one was,
the bed away from the wall.
That one wasn't on the list,
right?
Probably, but they must have been thinking about it.
Right, yeah.
I thought we can't put that one on.
That's what they meant by heated.
But the arguments, though, are all right as long as you can hear it clearly. It's when you can half hear it that is really irritating.
Like that.
My neighbour asked if I could hear them arguing, and I said no.
But you could.
No, I couldn't. But they seemed slightly disappointed that I couldn't hear them arguing.
Or they'll try loud. They'll try harder next time.
Must try harder.
Yeah. Well, no. This example is not as bad as the other one, because apparently he didn't know that he was doing this, or maybe he did. Either way, the example that I'm about to tell you, I'll have to do this after the travel now. There was some purpose in his in the annoying behaviour that he was engaging in. No purpose at all for a woman staying up all night blasting Madonna at her neighbours. The police should have come round and used the taser on her. Am I right? Yes.
As always.
As always, yeah. I mean, you'd just want to, wouldn't you? You'd want to do it yourself. It's amazing that people didn't take the law into their own hands. Just burst through her door and smash her stereo up with a sledgehammer. Every fibre of your being would want to do it. And if in a just society, the surrounding neighbours would stand up and give her a round of applause, right? But no, not in this society. Anyway, I'll come to that in just a moment. 0845 6060 973. It's 8:45. LBC Travel with Alan Joyce.
Thanks, Nick.
Hello!
We have a How Low auction going on at the minute. It's for a 42-inch Samsung Plasma TV. Your last chance to win one of these. Crystal clear, free view. It's got the lot, baby. It's a reverse auction. The person with the lowest unique bid wins. The lowest bid in pence that no one else makes. Before 7 p.m. tomorrow. To text 57 pence, for instance. It could be one with a bid as low as that. It could be one with a bid as low as 1 penny, really. You could bid, or text rather, LBC plus your bid in pence to 88821. For 57p, it would be LBC 57 to 88821. Bids cost £1.50 plus your standard network rate. Lines close 7 p.m. tomorrow. Bidders must be over 16. lbc.co.uk for full terms and conditions. This noisy neighbour, a weightlifter. He's been fined £70 for exercising too loudly. He was charged with 40... Oh, OK, so he did know he was doing wrong. 47 breaches of a noise abatement order. 47! What? How can anybody be that inconsiderate? We've now bred a society that is totally inconsiderate. Nobody's got any manners anymore. Nobody cares what anybody else thinks anymore.
But as we discussed earlier, doesn't that make him really successful then? So
that's right.
To success.
Yeah, it is. Yes, that's correct. He successfully breached a noise abatement order 47 times after neighbours complained that his 2-hour training sessions with dumbbells left them unable to sleep. A council team investigating complaints about noise from his top-floor flat in Margate found that at times the level hit 100 decibels, which is as loud as a rock concert.
Rock and roll!
The 6'2", 15-stone carpenter was warned by officials last summer to stop using his weights, but after just 1 month, neighbours complained to Thanet Council, which fitted flats on lower floors with noise recorders. In the following 6 months, neighbours recorded 47 breaches of the noise abatement order, citing grunting and noise from the weights hitting the floor as the major irritants. You get that in gyms sometimes. Like most people just have a light exhalation of air when they're pushing heavy weights about. Some people grunt like they've been a
tennis player.
Well, yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, like they're being amorously attacked by a walrus. Doris Fox, 68. Said she was so fed up with the grunting and the screaming and the noise of the weights being slammed down that she couldn't sleep properly. She's told Thanet Magistrates Court, the noise was so loud, I thought you had an angle grinder up there. But you know what? It's funny to read it, but it can't possibly be funny to live with that. Because you know what they sound like, men when they're being macho. You don't actually need to make a giant amount of noise when either you're hitting a tennis ball or you're pushing a lot of weight. They do it when they hit a tennis ball to put off the opposition. Is there another reason why they do it? Of course not. It's gamesmanship. Like that. And louder and louder it gets. That's just, it's a nonsense. They should clamp down on that. They should taser those women as well. Men don't really do that so much, do they?
Was it Monica Seles, the first one to really do that?
Something, yeah.
And she was only a tiny little thing.
Right.
And she...
That's right.
Every time. Louder and louder.
Because there's, it doesn't make any sense because there's no effort involved in hitting a tennis ball. It's just swinging a tennis racket, and once you started the swing, then it pretty much, what's the physical term for that? The force continues through. It's like it pulls it. Once you've started off, the tennis racket carries on of its own volition. I can't remember what the actual physics is. I didn't pay any attention in physics. The thing with physics is that it's fascinating.
Boring!
Oh, yeah, that's right. Boring. But no, blokes when they're pushing weights in gyms, I don't know, it's like a macho thing. They want to draw attention to the fact that they're pushing an enormous weight. They've got the weight of a small bungalow on their little rack there. They go, as though they're strangling a hippo. So that everyone...
What strangled hippo sounds like.
Just like that, as a matter of fact. Yeah, in fact, that was a recording of a hippo being strangled yesterday.
It's like an education,
It is, isn't it? Yeah. The weightlifter admitted the 47 breaches, but speaking after his court appearance this week, he said, "All I do is exercise and work out my weights. I'm trying to keep fit. I cannot believe I've been taken to court for exercising." Mate, you haven't been taken to court for exercising. You've been taken to court because you're a giant ass. That's the reason right there, which is actually illegal in this country, being a giant ass.
My upstairs neighbour makes a weird sound, and I was trying to work out what it was for ages, and it sounded like rude sounds.
Yes.
And I thought, but no, it's like machine noise, though.
It's got a spinning Jenny up there, is it?
I think that's what it is. I think it's like electric sewing machine or something. So, finally, I think I cracked it. But one time I had a neighbour start doing DIY on a Sunday morning.
Well, that's very objectionable. Not on a Sunday morning, neither on a Saturday after... before 9 or after midday. That's the law.
This was about 7 in the morning.
That's totally unacceptable.
And it was like hardcore drilling.
Really?
And I did the bang on the ceiling thing, but he was just going at it. And
banged on the ceiling?
Yeah, just...
Wait, on your ceiling or on his ceiling?
On mine.
So your floor?
His, yeah.
Your floor, right.
No,
okay.
I'm on the ground floor, so it's the flat above.
What did you use to bang on the ceiling with?
My fist.
That's a very low ceiling.
Well, I stood on the sofa.
Right.
But anyway,
because traditionally in films and on television, you get a broom handle, don't you? And you bash the ceiling.
Comedy style.
In real life, the broom handle goes through the plaster.
Yeah, stuff lands on your head.
Yeah, that's right.
So anyway, that didn't work. So I went and rang his bell because I was really annoyed by now.
Right.
And
that'll teach him.
And I thought I'll ring and I'll say, look. Shut up. I got back from work at 2 in the morning, so I was not in a good mood. But he had his windows open and I could hear him banging away and drilling.
Right, so he couldn't hear you.
No, I got some big chunks of mud from across the other side of the road and threw them through his window.
It's escalated.
Yeah.
You what?
And still nothing.
Really?
Yeah. So I gave up at that point.
Well, you picked up a part of a field and you chucked it in his flat, and still nothing.
Still nothing.
Are you absolutely certain it was that flat?
Yeah, no, definite, for sure. I hope so. I really hope so.
Well, maybe he was in the process of chopping up some bodies that he'd killed the previous night.
Yeah.
He was busy.
But other neighbours started coming out in their dressing gowns and stuff. And there's a bit of solidarity, and of course,
it used to be a cure for headaches, drilling holes in people's heads. Maybe he just had a really bad headache.
Maybe.
He tried the Nurofen, and it just wasn't working.
Yeah, this is Nurofen Extra.
Right. Of course, if you're drilling a hole in your own head, then you wouldn't be able to hear the doorbell. There's a perfectly reasonable explanation for everything.
Don't try it at home, kids.
No, that's right. Only with supervision from an adult should you drill holes in your own head with a Black & Decker.
Yeah, the throwing in the mud was quite therapeutic, but again, I don't recommend it. I don't condone that behaviour.
Yeah, LBC condones throwing mud in strangers' flats. Yeah. Actually, no, we don't. No, don't break the law unless no one's looking.
But I wasn't prepared for what would happen if he did actually stick his head out the window and go,
well,
oi.
Yeah, oi.
Well, the precise moment you were throwing mud at
Yeah.
But I was just so angry by that point, I didn't care.
He would have thrown one of his victims' decapitated body parts at you.
So, hey, take that.
What an awful story. Thanks for that.
That's all right.
Neighbours from hell. I've been quite lucky. Never live beneath someone, I think, is the key, isn't it?
You got a hole in your roof instead.
Oh, yeah, well, supposedly fixed. Whenever it rains in my flat.
Yeah, we're looking at...
it used to.
We're looking at a wetter summer again.
That's what they say. It's going to be another...
2 buckets.
Yeah, another typical British summer. Not so much like last year, but warmer and wetter, which is one of my least favourite personal states to be in. But that's what they're saying, that there was going to be snow and hail and all manner of horror this weekend. And then thereafter, they've looked into their crystal ball. They've, crunched down all the numbers in their computer program, and they have predicted that this summer will be warm and wet. So prepare for it to be the exact opposite. 97.3 LBC. Travel plans. That's this Sunday. 97.3 LBC. Now, we were talking about boorish behaviour, this chap who just refused to stop grunting and heaving and, screaming like show-offs do in the gym. And then there was a woman yesterday who refused to stop playing Madonna all night long. And you can't pick up the paper on, in fact, any paper without looking or without having a boorish behaviour stare you in the face. Well, there's a woman who wrote an article in the, I think this is the Telegraph the other day, who is making a stand. Claire Woodward. This is quite an interesting article. I'll read you this. Handbag? Check. Travel pass? Check. Set of knuckle dusters and a length of bicycle chain? Check. Not what most women would carry on their daily trip to work, but it's what I pack. The last two metaphorically speaking. As I set off each morning. Not because I'm a middle-class hooligan or an ASBO bent, or of an ASBO bent, but because I feel I have to be a superannuated Wonder Woman on a solo quest for justice and the right not to be bullied by unacceptable behaviour. For this, I need my imagined armoury to get me through the day. Last month, the Association of School and College Leavers reported that today's parents fail to pass on basic social skills to their children. And why is that? When did that happen, by the way? When did parents stop treating their children as children and start treating them more like adults with their own needs and requirements, and none of which could be refused? When did that happen? Who's actually responsible for that? Name the person.
You're looking for a name?
Yeah, well, it must have been something of the order... Because there was that chap in America who told women how to bring up their babies. What was his name? Some bloke with a funny name, and so suddenly he espoused this theory about how to bring up babies, and everybody started doing it until he was... until, about 10 years later, everyone came to their senses and said, oh, hang on a minute, that's not right. I can't remember what the chap's name was. Anyway, you'd suspect that somebody has told parents how to bring up their children and that they should, respect their human rights. And God, I hate that phrase, but anyway, and that this is the problem. This is the root of the problem that we're facing in society. Either that, or everyone just lost their minds independently of each other at the same time. Last month, the Association of School and College Leavers reported that today's parents fail to pass on basic social skills to their children. Manners, they said, completely pass youngsters by. I, for one, hardly need this pointed out to me, possessing as I do an overdeveloped sense of right and wrong, says this woman in the Telegraph. As a result, I can't bear anyone who tries to impose their thoughtless bullying behaviour on others. I use Debrett's Guide to Etiquette as my Bible. And I'm lucky enough to know gentlemen who make me swoon by rushing ahead to open a door for me, or by insisting that they take the correct side of the pavement. I do that just without even thinking about it. But then I was brought up proper, innit? I'm clearly living in brief encounter, aren't I, she says. So you can imagine how well it goes down when I get on a bus, and an MP3 player, mobile phone, is tinnily blaring out some R&B nonsense about gold-plated Bentleys, bitches and bling to the annoyance of everyone else. It's not nice, so I politely ask if they wouldn't mind turning their music down. If I'm feeling especially narked, I might just cosily plonk myself next to them and ask, what is that smashing tune? Is it the Brotherhood of Man? Sometimes the volume diminishes, sometimes I get a mouthful of abuse. What I rarely get, of course, is any backup from my fellow commuters, despite the fact that they are invariably as cheesed off as I am. Fear holds them back. But not me. Oh no. My superheroine exploits don't stop at ridding the world of tinny teen music either. I've had a knife shown to me by a gang member for trying to stop him and his meat-headed cronies bullying a couple on a bus. Been threatened with assault by a drunken young woman at 10 a.m. for saying that verbally abusing fellow passengers isn't a great idea, and beaten a man around the head with a newspaper for being grossly insulting to me after he and his troupe of performing gorillas put fear into a train carriage. This actually happened to me. I haven't sort of dealt with this personally yet, but I was on a train carriage and this group of rat children got on. They were all girls. They were rat children. There's no other way of putting it.
Children of rats?
Yes.
Okay.
And they started picking on this, well, they just sort of gazed around, you know, mouth agape around the carriage as they got on. This was an overground train. And I thought, oh, God, something's going to happen here. School children, girls, all girls. And they saw a woman who was sort of opposite me, and they thought, right, we'll have her. And they didn't actually physically hit her, but they just were deeply, I can't remember, it's so long ago now, I can't remember exactly what they did, but they made the little trip between one station and the next a hell for her. You know, just like leering over her and saying like disgusting things that even I couldn't come up with. I'm surprised that they could at a third of my age. Now, I thought at the time, they're all females, to let them get on with it. Or I could step in and try and stop it, and then what would happen? And I went through my mind, okay, well, the schoolgirls will say, right, we're having you, and they'll pull the cord, and the police will be called, and they'll all say, well, he just assaulted us, or whatever story they could, cook up between them, and I'll be in jail before you know it. So I didn't do anything. I just sort of sat there and let it happen. Of course, in those circumstances, your mind goes through the potential, and then it goes through another separate parallel universe where you're a superhero with, great and mystical powers, in which you would bundle them all up in a spider's web and fling them from the earth and send them into the sun. Or, some, very satisfactory outcome like that. Unfortunately, I'm not a superhero. I know that might come as a shock, but I've tried, and I don't have any special powers. So I just sat there and I let it happen. No, I'm not happy that I did that, but I think in retrospect, I probably did the right thing. For me, not for her, not for the woman that was being picked on, but for me. Because you know that these children are savvy enough to know that they can do anything they like, and if anybody tries to stop them, how many times have you read this? They'll call the police, say that they were offended, abused, assaulted, whatever, and you, the person that is in the right, will get nicked for it.
It's a shame it's come down to self-preservation now.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't help other people with the risk that something could happen to you. And you couldn't rely on other people to come to your aid either.
No. That's right, that's exactly what this woman is saying. She says, I've had a knife shown to me, lost my own place now. She's, wait a minute. She's been threatened with assault by a drunken young woman at 10 a.m. for saying that verbally abusing fellow passengers isn't a great idea, and beaten a man around the head with a newspaper for being grossly insulting to me after he and his troupe of performing gorillas put fear into a train carriage. Blimey, she is Superman. She's beaten a bloke from a gang around the head with a newspaper. I did tell a story when I was on a tube and three guys came on. It was I was all dressed up. I can't remember where I was going. I normally don't dress up. I mean, look at me. I'm a disgrace. But I was wearing posh clothes, and three guys got on, and I thought, and they looked. The train carriage went past them on the platform, but they got on my carriage, so they saw me as I went by and thought, that one. And so they travelled some distance to get on my carriage. And as soon as they hove into view, I thought, oh, God, because I clocked them as the train was pulling into the platform. I thought, oh, blimey, here we go. And it was a long period in between one stop and the next. And they walked the entire length of the carriage to come and sit opposite me, three of them, that sort of spread themselves out, one next to me. No, they were just three opposite. And they looked a bit unsure of themselves. So attire, right? And they were looking furtively at each other and then at me, and I thought, well, here we go. I've never been mugged. There's a first time for everything. And I thought, what would James Bond do? And I didn't have any, I didn't have my briefcase with the, for the knife in it. And then I remembered what Paul Newman did in a film. I can't remember what it was. He was a policeman in New York. And in order to disarm a crazy man with a knife, he pretended to be insane and did something completely unexpected, which rendered the man, well, helpless momentarily. And so I thought, what would the last thing they would expect me to do? Because you couldn't bolt. I couldn't bolt for the door because they were between me and it. I thought the last thing they'd expect me to do is to get closer to them. So that's what I did. Which took them aback. And they didn't know how to react to that. I sort of I shuffled forward in my seat and leaned into them.
Did you start talking as well?
No, I didn't.
That'd be the next step, wouldn't it? Probably introduce yourself to them.
Give them my card.
Yeah.
And they sort of looked at each other and they didn't quite know how to take it. I bought enough time to get to the next station, and the doors opened, and I made my excuses and left quickly. But I thought that without having done that, I would definitely have not got off the train with what I got on it with.
In it.
Does that make sense? Anyway, I'll come back to what this woman says in just a moment. It's 9:15. LBC Travel with Alan Joyce.
Thanks, Nick. Just an update for you now on the Jubilee.
Anyway, back to this woman who is starting to... she's becoming a superhero. She's rejecting boorish behaviour in other people. Did I pronounce that right? Boorish? I know that's the way it's written. Is it boorish or it's boorish? It just sounds odd when you say it. It sounds odd to purse your lips when you're saying any word. Try it with me now. Boorish, see?
How's it spelled?
It's spelled B-O-O-R-I-S-H. Boorish. Boorish. Anyway, she says she'd broken up a fight. After all of these things, being shown a knife, threatened with assault, attacking a man with a newspaper for insulting her. She says she's also broken up a fight between two men on the tube. My greatest and certainly most dramatic moment, I feel, she says. They started talking to each other loudly. I thought they knew each other until things got nasty and a ruck ensued between them. I had no idea why. Well, the only people that talk to each other on the tube are people from out of town, really, aren't they? Londoners do not talk to each other on the tube. Even if you know each other and get on the tube with each other, you don't talk to each other on the tube. It's like being in a lift, but worse. Actually, it's not as bad as being in a lift, because being in a lift is usually quiet, and so it will amplify any, conversation that you make. But, I don't know, there's just something about being in an enclosed space that English people particularly don't like, or soft southern types like us, we don't like conversing with others, even the people that we know, but particularly we won't talk to strangers. If you are engaged in conversation by someone on the tube who speaks English, I absolutely guarantee you they're from the north, because they're not used to our weird southern ways. They talk to people up there. You remember talking to people, don't you?
No.
It's strange, you can be crammed in like sardines, completely invading each other's personal space, but just saying the word hello, that pushes it over the edge.
Yes. Actually, we don't invade each other's personal space, because our personal space retreats in depending on how much space we have around us. So your face can be in someone's armpit, but you can still be within your own personal space. And your own personal space can retreat to your own skin. It can be, it can be that tight. Anyway, these people arguing on the tube. She said, I had no idea why they were arguing. Cue my overdeveloped sense of justice. I leapt in and tried to separate the two blokes with my delicately manicured hands. This woman's off her head. As ever, nobody else was interested, and until I played the helpless female card with a cry of, isn't a man going to help me? Some did. Hurrah! Now, I would have bet that nobody would have done. Trying to separate two blokes having a fight. Why bother? Really? As ever, nobody else was interested, and I read that bit. And then one of the fighting guys chirped up with, I'm a police officer. Show your warrant card, said one of the guys who'd stepped in, and he did. So we all backed off, leaving PC Thing to drag the other guy off the tube at the next stop. I sat down again, and the man in the next seat explained that the whole dispute seemed to be over possession. Not of drugs, but of, guess what? On the tube, two people sitting next to each other, arguing over possession of something. Not something that they brought with them, something that they found there.
Free newspaper?
No. Sillier than that.
Leftover food?
Not as unpleasant as that, no. I've done this myself, and I've got to the point where in the parallel life that I and I'm sure everybody else leads, gunfire was exchanged. Over possession of, I'll give you one more guess. Something they didn't get on the train with, but they found when they were there.
The seat?
No, the armrest.
Ah, done that in the cinema.
The armrest. It's like... It's like the border between two countries.
Well, are you entitled to a half of each one on either side, or the one on your left, or the one on your right?
It depends on where you're sitting. If you're sitting on the end, which has no armrest on one side, it's just got that glass partition, then I believe you are entitled to the entirety of the armrest on your right side, if you're sitting with your left to the partition. Which means that the person on your right is entitled to, you would think, the entirety of the one on his right. And then all the way down the line, there is a problem there, because somebody else is sitting and they've only got one armrest too. So this is where territorial disputes emerge. Of course, some people are just unpleasant, aggressive oiks, and they want both armrests and some of the space on either side of the adjoining seats. People with large newspapers, for instance, who don't fold it over, like the Telegraph. It's about the only paper that's that big anymore. They won't fold it over. They'll come into your space with the side of their newspaper. That makes me want to kill them too. It's completely unreasonable, and it's totally over the top, but that's just the way you feel. What?
There is an art to reading the Telegraph in a confined space, and I can't do it.
You have to whip the paper around so that you're only looking at one page rather than two. But every time you do whip the paper around, it's touch and go whether you will do it successfully. If you don't do it successfully, then you've got a crumpled newspaper and people will snigger at you under their breath. Or they'll think you're a dope and you don't know how to fold your own newspaper. If you do it successfully, it's almost like getting a touchdown in rugby or hitting a six. It's just a feeling of tremendous accomplishment. Every time I do it, it's the same.
Yes, then people might think you're a bit strange.
A bit weird.
And I won't sit next to you, so you get the whole armrest.
So they were having a fight over the possession of an armrest. That's what it's come to. Like I said, the whole world's gone crazy. But stupid as it seems, I was glad I got involved, she said, because if nobody does, we'll end up with a society in which we're all wringing our hands about antisocial behaviour, but are too afraid to do anything about it. Now, I think you're a bit behind the times there, dear. That's the society that we're in right now. So let me make a plea to anyone who feels the way I do, she says. Join my gang. Why should the hoodies and the awkward squad have all the fun? I can't tell you how liberating it is to have the confidence to try and make our daily lives a bit better and not feel downtrodden and unheard. I've never been a fan of participating in dangerous sports, but I can imagine they give you the same adrenaline rush as stopping somebody shouting at a pensioner for not moving along the bus fast enough. And I can imagine that is tremendously liberating. And you feel an enormous sense of achievement. It's just that nobody wants to do it because we're all petrified of being, stabbed in the face. Join with me, and together we shall form a community of the like-minded lovely people. The nice squad, if you will. And we won't have to put up with all the horribleness anymore. I'm especially looking for more male members, she says, because the scant help I get is usually female. Why should this damsel be the one doing all the distressing, when myself and a white knight on a charger could make a dynamic duo? Meet you at the bus stop.
What was, the vigilante group? Was it the Guardian Angels?
Yeah, that's right.
Here for a bit. They disappeared pretty quick, didn't they?
Well, they got shot.
Stabbed. And they stole their little berets that they had.
Yeah, that's right.
And ran off with them.
Yeah. They tried to instill order at a primary school and were killed for their troubles. Yeah. Here is Forest Hill. Hello, Jill.
Hello. Do you know, I wasn't going to call in when you were talking about those girls. I had a few thoughts as to perhaps, what one could do if in that situation. But only, I mean, if I was you, if I was a man in that situation, I probably would have done exactly the same as you, unless they started to get, really violent and aggressive against the other, victim. Then I just think my human instincts would have just, kicked in. So.
But what I thought, if I did ask them to not do anything, then they would have picked on me.
Yeah.
And as a bloke facing a group of schoolgirls, there's nothing that you could have done that would keep you within the realms of the law.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, and that was the wise thing to do. As I said, maybe if they got physically violent and by putting the girl in danger, then maybe that's that would have changed the situation, and very likely you probably would have done something. But
well, maybe, but I would still have thought. Suppose I did step in and I stopped them being violent by, slapping one of them about the face or restraining one of them. Let's put it like that.
I don't know.
Hang on, and the woman who was being picked on got up and got off at the next stop, and the girls pulled the cord and the police arrived. It would have been their word against mine.
Okay, yeah, no, it's those degrees of violence. No, what I'm saying is, okay, if they gave her a slap, that would be awful, like this happy slapping stuff, that's awful to watch. But what I'm saying is, and I've never seen that actually, and I hope I never do, but what I'm saying is, let's say they all really became very violent and drew blood, I just think instinctively, even I as a female, I think I'd just, just try to get in there to stop them doing it.
I would have done, in that circumstance, I would have done something, Jill, and I'd probably be getting out of prison now.
No, I think if it had got, really seriously physically violent, I don't think you would. But anyway, that's not why I called you. Anyway,
go on then.
And what inspired me to call you was you were talking about the armrest wrestling, as I call it.
Right.
Well, I don't take the tube anymore, but years ago, I'll never forget this. I used to take the tube a lot, and one day I sat down and I got to the seat sort of amongst the first people, and then the next tranche of people that came on next to me was this huge man. I mean, he wasn't fat, he was just really, really tall and big and solid and, just a very big man, 6'9" or something. Anyway, and he really filled the seat when he sat down. had my elbow on the edge, on the armrest. He just put his elbow and, like, sort of knocked mine out the way, and I was so incensed. And I'm not even half the size of that man. I was so incensed that I ended up trying to squeeze my elbow underneath his arm, and it ended up sort of, anyway, under his armpit, and then, he then gave me a look as if, what the hell do you think you're doing? And I gave him a, what the hell do you think you're doing look back. So we were both, what the hell do you think you're doing?
That's the level of argument, isn't it? And it comes down to, oh yeah.
But I'm right. I was literally, I promise you, half his size. I'm 5'0".
Yeah, Jill, I've got to go. But thanks for your crazy story. All right.
Okay.
This is LBC 97.3. It's 9:30. We have a How Low auction going at the minute. It is your last chance to win a 42-inch Samsung Plasma television. It's a reverse auction. The person with the lowest unique bid wins. It's a cutting-edge plasma TV. It's got the lot, really. HD ready, built-in Freeview, instant access to all of those extra channels, no set-top box needed. The auction, reverse auction, closes 7 p.m. tomorrow. To enter, text LBC plus your bid in pence to 88821. If it was a 64-bid entry, it would be LBC 64 to 88821. Bids cost £1.50 plus your standard network rate. Lines close 7 p.m. tomorrow. Bidders must be over 16. lbc.co.uk for full terms and conditions. West Kensington. Hello, Jane.
Hello. Oh, that was beautifully done, that.
I am a professional.
It's very nice to speak to you, Nick. I haven't spoken to you for a long time now.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't expect you to remember me, but I'm so glad you're still going. That's really great. Do you remember I was talking about you should be more often?
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, I expect everyone tells you
Despite medical opinion, I'm still going, yeah.
What I wanted to call about was... telling people on trains not to drop their litter, interrupting someone and trying to correct their behaviour.
Right.
And I was on a train, a rather dodgy line anyway, Hammersmith and City, and sort of Latimer Road, that area.
Right, yeah, very
unpleasant. Quite near you, I believe.
That's exactly right, yes.
So watch out. And there was this chap, and he had a girlfriend with him, and he was eating this hamburger. Then he dropped the carton on the floor of the train.
Yeah, of course he did.
And what? What do you mean, of course he did?
Well,
you don't do that, do you?
No, it just sounds like the sort of thing that would happen. Yeah, of course he did.
Yes, and I was just in that mood.
I've never dropped litter in my life.
I'm sure you haven't. No, I'm sure you haven't. But and litter is one of my bugbears.
Yeah,
me
too.
I can't stand litter.
Mm.
This whole town is full of litter on the roads, I was passing a sweeper tonight, but I mean, what's the point, one of those road things, and the chap was sweeping by anyway, I was just not in the mood, so I just went over and I picked it up and gave it back to him. Then he threw it down again. I picked it up and gave it back to him. He threw it down again. And then he started insulting me. And because it was very cold, I had my scarf around my face, around my mouth.
Yeah.
So I said, no. What if I was, And so he started being very abusive. And so I just I let it go. And when the next station came, I moved out of the train and went to the next carriage.
Yeah.
I was sitting there, and then he followed me. The next station, he came into my carriage on his own without the girlfriend.
Great.
And he just sort of stood over me, and I thought, this is getting a bit ridiculous now. I mean, what's the point of trying to help these people, So I sort of subdued, and I said, look, please leave me alone. And he just stood there. And I didn't say anything because my warning, all my body, was beginning to feel a bit under threat. So the next station came, and I got out, and he got out, and I was going to go up to the driver and tell him. And then he just went off into the station. He got off there, But that was just one example of, what's the point of us trying to, better tell these people, why don't they, why do they do it? Why? Why don't they care?
Jane, the stuff you see when you've left your gun at home, right?
Pardon? What are you talking about?
If only you'd been armed at the time.
If only I'd been what?
Never mind. It was a telling story, and I'll never do it myself.
Well, yes. So why don't they do it? I mean, those litter bins are in the train. You know, those little things on the.
Jane, it's because they're stupid.
I mean, what are we going to do about all these people that drop things? And you know, it's not good enough, is it?
We could fashion an island from the sea. We could reclaim land from the sea, put it on a pontoon, put them on it, and float them out into the North Sea.
Well,
Would that be a good idea?
I'd shoot them.
Shoot them. Well, there you go. Like I said before, the stuff you see when you've left your blunderbuss in the flat.
I know, but do you feel as strongly as me? I'm sure there are some listeners who feel like this about litter.
There's no end of stuff that irritates me. Just people. Just people irritate me. I was hyperventilating at the TV last night. I was watching BBC HD. And the announcer came on the BBC and said, "This is BBC HD." Oh, I was shouting at the television. That drives me mad, so don't get me started on litter, Jane.
Yes, it's really bad, isn't it?
But I would suggest you don't do that again.
I think I avoided what could have been, you know, because I was getting very, you know, because sometimes I can lose my temper as well, and I thought he was really riling me, you know, and I thought, I nearly felt I had to, you know, hold everything in, you know, whereas, you know, it'd be great if we could all do what we want and I could go, you know, but then I'd probably end up with a broken nose or even worse, you know. But
I'd always be able to find you by just following the trail of blood in your wake.
Anyway, great to hear you.
All right.
Keep up the good work.
Thanks, Jane.
Bye.
I think that eventually we will all carry arms. It's got that way in America. It's going to get that way here. You know it's true. In 10 years, 20 years, certainly in 50 years' time, we'll all have our own guns, lasers, whatever it might be at that time, and we'll all be dealing out death because somebody's fighting us for an arm rest. If the only people that are armed are criminals, that is a situation that cannot last. Can it? It won't. So it's going to go that way. And I can completely understand why people get shot all the time in America. It's because people are irritating. Every time you go out of the house, somebody irritates you. I'd be blasting away from dawn until night. Here is Barnet. Mirelle.
Hello, Nick.
Bell.
Hi. I was listening to your monologue about the lady that thinks she's Superwoman.
Yeah.
And I think I've joined her gang surreptitiously without realising it.
Oh, yeah.
I stick up for people on buses. I never get started on, but I always end up sticking up for women that are being, or women or girls that are being bullied.
Right.
And what I found is, if you stick together, okay, the bully walks away.
But how do you know that? How do you know that other people are going to stick together?
Well, you don't. For instance, I'll give you for instance. This guy was came flying down the step, very loud, very raucous. Not these two girls flying, and she turned around expecting him to say sorry or sorry, darling, or whatever, and he said nothing. So she sort of looked at him. So he said, what? And I said, well, you knocked her flying. Right? So straight away I'm telling him what he's done. And so she went, oh, thank you. And then he started swearing at me. Once he started swearing at me, she came over and stuck up for me. Then he started on her. I straight away stuck up for her. And her friend was hovering between the two of us. So it was three angry women on one guy. And he couldn't win. There was no way. The bus driver was screaming at us, do we need police? But we were so busy having a go at him, we didn't even hear the bus driver.
Can I hire the three of you to follow me around at all times?
No, it really is the fact. I mean, there was a bus full of people. Nobody joined in, but the point was, because it wasn't one person on their own, and I didn't know how this guy was going to turn, and neither did the girls. But and then he's turning around and he's going, I'm going to hit you now. So I said to them, get ready to defend yourself. And I think because you're sort of together, and in the end, you know the little blue button to get off the bus?
Yeah.
He had enough and he pressed the blue button. And that was
emergency exit button.
Yeah, and that was one, and there was another one.
That's a £15 fine right there.
Well, there was another one that just split my brain, but it's the same thing. If you're in a situation that You know, I mean, there are people that get stabbed and whatever. But, and I tell you one thing with the girls, Nick, you did the right thing, because I tell you, these girls are like creatures of the night. The sort of run-ins I've had have been with, you know, a couple of lads, or there was a little, like a boy gang. I wouldn't go near the girls. I think they're absolutely worse. I think they have no respect. They're creatures. I call them creatures.
I call them rat children.
Yeah, no, but they are worse than the boys. The boys, you know, I know you get terrible sort of cases in the paper where people, you know, tragically lose their lives and everything else, but I'd like to know how many times girls are edging these boys on.
You read that time and time again, that they're busy photographing it on their mobile phones, screaming for them to kill. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, and there was another one as well with the same situation where a couple of us stuck together, and the same thing. They walk away. I mean, you get the abuse, and you don't know how it's going to pan out, you know, and everybody straight away thinks, oh, they're going to stab us, but, you know, it's just, you can't sit there and think, well, it's nothing to do with me. If someone next to you, it just doesn't work like that. Oh, I can't anyway. But I do notice the funny thing, men don't get involved. It seems to be women are the first one to stick up for women, where there can be 3 or 4 guys on the bus, and they're just not interested, and I find that really strange.
Well, I don't, because every day you read in the papers that someone who has done that is not with us anymore.
The point is, what's going to happen eventually, okay? If nobody does anything, you're not going to be able to go out your front door.
Well, I think eventually has arrived.
No, it's not that bad now. And the thing is, you know, you just, sometimes it's just a case of, I mean, with the music, you know, when people say, oh, the music annoys and everything else, I don't actually get involved with that, because I can remember being 14, 15, playing the music and annoying everybody on the train, so I don't think that's do you know what I mean? I think people, when they get older, they forget what they were like. It's not that part of it, it's the abuse and the starting on. Oh, and the other thing that happened quickly before I shoot is, walking past a girl gang, walked past this girl, and then she turned around and said, excuse me, this was last week in Barnet. And I thought she was going to say, you know, you've got the time or something, as kids do sometimes. And she's no lie, Nick. She said to me, excuse me, why did you spit in my face? I swear. And I said, I beg your pardon. I walked straight back, like this, and I said to her, you know, you are shameful. And we were having this round. She was swearing around. I said, I can't be bothered to deal with you. And the boys that were with her walked away. You know, so obviously of course I hadn't spat in her face, but she's bored, she's got no social skills, sees someone on her own, and she just picked on the wrong person, because I'm not going to let that lie. I'm sorry.
Honestly, Morel, I want to hire you on a daily rate, or to follow me around at all times.
I'm very passive.
You can be my protectress.
No, it's not a protectress, it's got nothing to do with it, it's just the fact that I'm sick and tired of decent people being bullied by these, what I call night creatures, whether they be 15 or 50. Why should they be the ones? Why should we sit there cowering?
Oh, I mean it. I'm serious. I want to hire you to be
I charge £25 for 15 minutes protection, and I want a green berry.
15 minutes?
I'm very expensive.
That's a bit out of my price range, Morel. I'll get in touch with Paul McCartney. I think he can afford it. All right, well, thanks a lot for that, and you keep sticking up for yourself, all right?
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Eventually, the rest of us might follow suit. It's 9:45. LBC Travel with Alan Joyce.
Thanks, Nick. An update on the Jubilee line then tonight.
Oh, God, he's gone. 0845 6060 973. I was busy, I was about to talk about something there, and now I've been usurped. I've had the rug pulled from underneath me. Oh well, you know, that's the way it goes in show business. It's like no business I know. Nick Frary is back on the air tomorrow at 7 o'clock, by the way. And among the things he's going to be talking about, what's the answer to London's mounting murder epidemic? Well, it's like our last caller suggested. Stand up for yourself. Good, honest people are sick and tired of being sick and tired. And how much does living with dyslexia affect your work life? And we hear from the girl who watched her mother stab her father and her brother over a remote control. That's with Nick tomorrow from 7 o'clock as he examines the day's hot stories. 97.3 LBC. Talking about standing up for yourself, were you aware that Russia is sending bombers into our airspace on virtually a daily basis? I mean, you know... really?
Yeah, well, I like that kind of thing, so...
you enjoy our airspace being...
violated.
Or stories of that sort of stuff. Right, okay.
Yeah, well, they wave to each other, or at least they used to, which I thought was quite nice.
Crazy Russian Premier Vlad the Insaner is sending his nuclear bombers over on a weekly basis. RAF jets are being scrambled to chase off Russian nuclear bombers every week. How come that The Sun was the only paper that had this? I mean, really, the end of the world as we know it. You'd think that would be that would pass as being news. Hard-pressed Top Guns took the air 28 times in 7 months to deter the menacing aircraft heading straight for Britain. Giant Soviet-era Tupolovs carrying live nuclear weapons are probing our defences in a campaign of intimidation stepped up by Vlad the Insaner. Interceptions by RAF fighters, usually over the North Sea or the Arctic, have landed taxpayers, that's us, with a bill of £3.5 million. Oh, well, we'll just mark it down with the rest of it. It costs 60 grand to keep 2 Tornado or Typhoon jets in the air for an hour. A senior RAF source last night said, we have to take these bombers seriously, just in case. It runs us ragged. Whitehall mandarins tried to hide the number of quick reaction alerts, said basically, nothing to see here, please move along. Don't panic, don't panic. I think we should panic.
Well, that is Cold War era kind of, behaviour.
Yeah, exactly right, yeah. Well, this is where this chap comes from, isn't it? Putin. That's his old stomping ground. He used to be KGB
leader, didn't he?
That's exactly right. And that's where he seems to be taking his country. And if it goes, so do the rest of us go, because it's going to be an arms race. Not just an arms race, but a race of, spying and defence and, all of the rest of it. He's leading us back down that path again. It doesn't seem possible. The fall of the Berlin Wall, and you think, oh, we've got past that, and Nazism will never happen again, and this is all in our history, and we've all learnt from history, we've learnt our lessons and so on, and we're pressing forward, it's a great new future, and history will not repeat itself, but it does. Over and over and over again. We still keep making the mistakes again and again and again. And somebody said just recently about the rise of Nazism and how it was sort of unique to the society that Germany had at the time, and of course that sort of thing could never happen here. And it occurred to me at the time, well, it's the British way to say, and I think my response was, well, it would never happen here because of the British Reserve, and we're not that bothered about politics, and we can't be bothered to go out and vote in any great numbers. And we just wouldn't get that obsessed about politics. But I think it's entirely possible, because there seems to be a gap in the politicians' reactions to these stories that we're seeing on a daily basis. Like, our rights are being taken from us, and the fear to go out the house, fear of certain identifiable groups of individuals. That's how it starts. So I think that unless somebody addresses it, I mean, they're saying that the BNP is going to make great strides forward in the coming election, and it's entirely possible, because there is this giant gap in the middle, because all the parties seem to be saying the same thing, and it's all, oh well, what can we do? Human rights, this, that, and the other, which isn't chiming really with what people are thinking. It's not chiming with what the newspapers think that people are thinking, because if you read it in the Mail and you read it in the Sun and so on, what they're writing there, they're not just making this stuff up. This isn't just their opinions. It's what they think, we think. They're holding up a mirror to us. That's how you make money in the newspaper game. You tell people, you play on their beliefs. You don't introduce new thoughts and ideas. You tell people what you think they already think. So this is, you'd have to assume, because they sell so many papers, the Mail and the Sun, the biggest selling papers in the country, the Telegraph would be, I think, the next one, what they're writing in there is what people are thinking. However, that seems to be at odds with what the politicians are saying. The politicians are carrying on as though none of this is actually happening. People aren't getting killed on a daily basis, and people aren't, concerned to leave their house, and they aren't concerned that gypsies are taking over the car parks of their businesses, and so on, and so on. And it's all what you get from the politicians is it's almost as though they've got their fingers in their ears and they're humming loudly to themselves, pretending that it's not happening, or it'll all go away if you just ignore it. And a sense of anger has built up a little bit. But because we're British, we don't like to express that. But if time goes on, it will build up more and more. So there is this enormous gap in the political landscape that could be filled by someone with, a great speech writing capabilities, who has a lot of character and charisma to come in and fill it. Someone like Adolf Hitler. And it seems crazy to say it, but then 10 years ago, it would have seemed crazy that Russia would have gone back to the Cold War. But that's exactly what seems to have happened. We don't learn from history. That's the nature of it. That's the lesson of history, is we don't learn the lesson of history. It just keeps happening again and again. Anyway, we seem to have taken a really serious route. That's, it occurs to me, I can't be the only person that has occurred to, that if this giant gap in the middle of people's expectations of how things should be going, and the reality of how things should be going, and all of our leading politicians' denial, it's either a denial or a refusal to change the way that things are done in order to address it. They are leaving a giant gap in the middle. The danger gap. Everyone should be thinking... Warning! Warning! Because that's how it all starts, right? Or is it just me? Just whistling in the dark.
I think it might just be you on this occasion.
Really?
Yeah, I don't think there's enough people who are that bothered about it who would go and vote, actually. I mean, look at the turnout for the last election.
I'm not sure the turnout for the last election, I think, was a direct response to people's antipathy towards what they were being told by all the major parties. None of them were saying anything particularly interesting or different from each other. And so, if you don't say anything interesting, then people won't find it interesting. That's why people don't vote in great numbers here, is because you think, you can't tell the difference between them.
But people also don't like change that much. They say they do, but people like familiarity in the same thing.
True.
So they will vote for what they're used to.
Well, up to a certain point. And then, after a period, people want change, whether it means whatever it means. You know, after 10 years of the Conservative government, or however long it was, people just wanted a change.
That's true.
There was just this feeling in the air, and for no other reason than they wanted a change, the Tory party had to go.
Mm-hmm.
And, if Labour lasts for a significantly longer period of time, you'd have to think that the country will come to the feeling that they just want to change, just for change's sake. So, yes, in everyday terms, we don't like change, but after a while, it's like you can't sleep on your back all night long. You've got to sleep on your side for a while, otherwise your bones will seize up, right? It's kind of like that. Hey, what have we talked about tonight then, eh?
We talked about the pay rise for MPs so that they couldn't be fiddling their expenses, ticket convenience charges, the secrets of success, which include never smiling, travellers invading an industrial estate and the police not doing anything about it, boorish behaviour,
yes,
wolf whistling, Chadwell St Mary, targets in the NHS, border police who don't work at weekends,
Chadwell St Mary,
lovely place, rat children on the train,
oh no, I'm sorry, but we're out of time. Clive's next on LBC.
Monkey movie voiceover, take one.